The Grand Senate chamber floated in the darkness of space like a massive crystal ball. Inside the transparent dome, creatures from 247 different worlds sat in their designated sections. Some had wings. Some had scales. Others were made of something that looked like living water. They had all gathered here for one purpose: to decide if humans should be allowed to join them. For 3 full days they had been arguing. Ambassador Quellen stood up from his seat. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like glass and wings that caught the light. His people came from a planet where the weather was always perfect and food grew everywhere. They had never known war or hunger. "My friends," Quellen said, his voice echoing through the chamber, "we must think carefully about this decision. Earth is what we call a Class 12 death world. Do you understand what that means? Only 17 other planets in all of known space are this dangerous." He pressed a button and a blue planet appeared on the giant screens around the room. It looked beautiful, with white clouds swirling over blue oceans. But Quellen shook his head. "Do not let its beauty fool you. This planet is a nightmare. Humans evolved by chasing animals until those animals fell down dead from exhaustion. They ate the flesh of other living things. Their entire world is violent." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Senator Voss moved forward next. He looked like a giant insect, but he was actually 17 smaller insects that shared one mind. "I have studied human psychology," Voss said, his voice clicking and buzzing. "They form something called pack bonds. They create emotional connections so strong that they will die for creatures they are not even related to. This makes them unpredictable and dangerous." The screens changed. Now they showed images of human history. Wars with thousands of soldiers. Ancient warriors fighting with swords. Modern soldiers with guns. Explosions. Destruction. "And look at this," said another delegate from somewhere in the back. New images appeared. Humans punching each other in boxing rings. Humans tackling each other in rugby matches. Humans jumping off cliffs with only a cord tied to their ankles. "They hurt themselves for fun," the delegate whispered. "What kind of species does that?" More images came. Humans eating food that was so spicy it made them cry. Humans climbing mountains where the air was too thin to breathe. Humans diving into oceans filled with sharks and poisonous jellyfish. Counselor Beth from the Merchant Federation stood up. She looked like a purple seal with 6 flippers. "I must say something," she began carefully. "My people have traded with humans. They keep their promises. They are honest in business. They work hard." "Of course they seem nice now," Quellen interrupted. "They want something from us. They want our technology. They want access to our worlds. But what happens after we let them in? What happens when these predators are living among us? How long before they take what they want by force?" The arguing continued for hours. Some delegates wanted to keep humans trapped in their own solar system forever. Others thought maybe humans could be allowed limited contact but nothing more. Only a handful thought humans should be given full membership. The chamber itself was designed for comfort. The gravity was light so everyone could float a little bit. The air was filtered and clean. The temperature was perfect. This was a place of peace and order and civilization. But in a special section built with reinforced walls, someone sat and watched all of this. Someone who did not belong to the comfortable world of the Senate. Ambassador Margaret Reeves was human. She sat in a chair built to handle her weight. She wore a special suit that created Earth-normal gravity around her body. Without it, her bones were so dense and heavy that she would break their furniture just by sitting down. Margaret had been ordered to stay quiet unless someone asked her a direct question. So she sat and listened as hundreds of aliens debated whether her people were too dangerous to be trusted. She listened as species who had never missed a meal called humans greedy. She listened as creatures from paradise worlds called her people savage. Her hands gripped the armrests of her chair tightly. She wanted to speak. She wanted to defend humanity. But she had her orders. Stay quiet. Don't scare them. Show them we mean no harm. The session finally ended. Delegates stood up and began leaving, still arguing with each other as they walked. The vote would happen tomorrow. Margaret knew that billions of humans back on Earth were waiting and hoping. As the chamber emptied, a small creature hopped toward the center platform. His name was Pip. He looked like a frog but was bright orange and had 4 eyes. He was young and nervous. "Maybe," Pip said in a tiny voice that barely carried across the room, "we should hear what the human has to say?" Everyone stopped walking. The chamber went completely silent. Hundreds of eyes turned to look at the reinforced section where Margaret sat. Quellen turned around slowly. A cold smile appeared on his face. "Yes," he said. "I think that is an excellent idea. Let us hear from the Deathworlder. Let her speak. Margaret took a deep breath. Tomorrow she would have to find the words to save humanity's future. Tomorrow she would have to make them understand. But tonight, all she could do was sit in the silence and prepare herself for the most important speech of her life. Margaret stood up from her chair. The moment she moved, alarms started beeping throughout the chamber. Red lights flashed on control panels. The Senate security system was screaming warnings about her body. Her weight. Her bone density. Her muscle mass. To the sensors she registered as a biological weapon. Several delegates near the front quickly moved backward. Others made frightened noises in their own languages. Margaret walked slowly toward the central speaking platform. Each step made a heavy sound in the low gravity. Thud, thud, thud. The floor was designed for creatures that weighed almost nothing. Her boots left small dents with each step. When she reached the podium she did something that made everyone gasp. She reached up and removed her helmet. Without the helmet, the chamber's atmosphere would slowly damage her lungs. The air was too thin for humans. Too filtered. Too clean. But she needed them to see her face. She needed them to see that she was real. "Thank you for listening to me," Margaret said. Her voice was steady and calm. "Thank you for considering humanity's request to join you." She pressed a button and Earth appeared on the screens again. The blue planet rotated slowly, beautiful and deadly. "You are right about everything," she continued. "Earth is a Class 12 death world. The gravity is 1.3 times what you consider normal. The oxygen in our air would poison most of you within minutes. Our temperature changes so much that 90% of you would die from the heat or the cold." She changed the image. Now the screens showed Earth's oceans full of massive creatures with rows of sharp teeth. Then forests where tigers hunted. Then deserts where the sun could kill. Then frozen lands where the cold could stop your heart. "We have fish with 300 teeth in our waters," Margaret said. "We have plants that created poison to defend themselves. We have diseases that killed billions of us before we learned how to fight back. Everything on Earth evolved to survive by being dangerous." Senator Voss clicked forward, his 17 bodies moving as one. "This is exactly why you cannot join us. You evolved to fight everything. Including each other." Margaret looked directly at him. She nodded. "You are absolutely right. We did fight everything. For 200,000 years, we fought to survive every single day." She paused. The chamber was completely silent. "And do you know what we learned from all that fighting?" She pressed another button. The images changed completely. Now the screens showed human hospitals where doctors saved lives. Schools where children learned together. Art museums full of paintings. Concert halls where orchestras played. Parks where families laughed. Rescue workers pulling people from collapsed buildings. Doctors wearing protective suits, treating patients with deadly diseases. "We learned that surviving is not the same as living," Margaret said quietly. "We learned that the strongest thing about us is not our ability to destroy. It is our ability to create, to heal, to help." She walked closer to the edge of the platform. Her voice grew stronger. "Every human culture in every part of our planet created the same ideas without ever talking to each other. We all invented mercy, kindness, art, music, love. We are predators, yes, but we are predators who chose to become something else. We are warriors who decided to build hospitals instead of armies." "Those are nice words," Quellen interrupted from his seat. "But your history of violence is matched by our history of compassion," Margaret cut him off. Her eyes flashed with emotion. "You reviewed our history. Yes, we fought wars. Terrible wars. But we also ended slavery. We cured diseases that killed millions. We built monuments not to conquerors but to peacemakers. We write poems about sunsets. We cry when we hear beautiful music. We adopt baby animals from completely different species and we call them our children." She moved even closer to where the delegates sat. Some of them leaned back nervously. "You are afraid of our pack bonding?" Margaret asked. "Good. You should be afraid of it. Because we will bond with you. We will decide that you are family. And we will protect you with everything we have. We will die for you if we must. Because that is what pack bonding means. That is what humans do." Her voice echoed through the crystal chamber. "You think that makes us dangerous? Maybe it does. But ask yourselves this, do you want us as enemies or as family? Because we do not know how to be anything in between. We do not know how to care a little bit. When we bond completely. When we protect with everything. When we love forever." She stood there, breathing hard, her face flushed with emotion. The unfiltered air was already making her lungs hurt, but she did not put her helmet back on. So yes, she said softly. We are dangerous. We are from a death world. But we are offering that danger to you as a gift. As protection. As partnership. The chamber remained silent. 247 species stared at the human woman standing before them, and for the first time they truly saw her. Not as a threat. Not as a monster. But as something they had never encountered before. Someone who had survived hell and learned to be kind anyway. Margaret stood at the edge of the platform, looking out at the hundreds of alien faces watching her. She took a deep breath, feeling the thin air burn in her lungs. Let me ask you something, she said. Something I do not think this Senate has ever considered. What happens to a species that survives a death world? Nobody answered. They just watched her with curious eyes. We do not just survive, Margaret continued. We adapt. We overcome. We take the things that are trying to kill us and we make them useful. You think we are crazy because we eat capsaicin. That is literal poison. It evolved in plants to stop animals from eating them. But we tasted it and thought this is delicious. We did not avoid the danger. We made it into food. We made it into medicine. We made poison into pleasure. New images appeared on the screens behind her. You showed the Senate our blood sports. You showed boxing and fighting. Let me explain what you are really seeing. Humans run marathons. That is 42 kilometers of running without stopping. We do this for fun. What? Because our ancestors had to chase animals across hot grasslands until those animals collapsed. That ability is in our blood now. We cannot make it go away. So we turned it into something positive. We run races to raise money for sick children. We run to challenge ourselves. We run because it reminds us we are alive. She changed the image to show two boxers in a ring. You see violence here. I see two athletes who trained for years. Who respect each other. Who follow rules. Who have doctors watching to make sure nobody gets badly hurt. Who can stop the fight at any moment by simply saying, I surrender. We took the violence that evolution gave us and we civilized it. We made it into sport. Into art. Into a way to test ourselves without actually hurting anyone. Senator Voss spoke up, his voice uncertain now. But the risks you take. Jumping from airplanes. Climbing mountains. Swimming with dangerous creatures. Why do you do these things? Margaret smiled sadly. Because our fear response is too strong. On Earth, every shadow could hide a predator. Every strange sound could mean danger. Every moment of every day our ancestors had to be ready to run or fight or die. So our brains evolved to be afraid of everything. Terrified of everything. That fear kept us alive, but it also made life very hard. She paused, remembering her own fears. So we had to learn to master that fear. We had to prove to ourselves that we were stronger than our terror. Yes, we jumped from airplanes. Because we refused to let fear control us. We turned our greatest weakness into our greatest strength. We turned terror into courage. The chamber was completely silent now. Every delegate was listening. Margaret pressed another button. New footage appeared. A space station damaged and dark. Emergency lights flashing red. 3 months ago, Proxima Station lost life support, she said. 47 beings from 12 different species were on that station. Only 3 humans. Do you know what happened? She waited, but nobody answered. Those 3 humans kept everyone alive for 8 days. 8 days in conditions that should have killed them in 8 hours. They used tape and wire and spare parts to build air filters. They gave their own oxygen to species whose bodies could not handle low oxygen as well as human bodies can. They worked without sleep. Without rest. Without stopping. Margaret's voice grew emotional. When rescue arrived, all 47 non-humans were alive. All of them. The 3 humans spent 2 weeks in medical recovery because they had damaged their own bodies keeping everyone else alive. And when reporters asked them why they did it, do you know what they said? She looked around the chamber, meeting as many eyes as she could. They said, what else would we do? They were our crew. Some delegates were leaning forward now, listening intently. That is what a death world creates, Margaret said. Not monsters. Not killers. Survivors. People who know that life is precious because we have seen how easily it can be lost. People who will fight with everything they have to protect others because we know what it means to lose someone. She changed the image again. Now it showed human medics working in a plague zone, wearing protective suits, treating sick aliens from a dozen different species. You have doctors, Margaret said. But how many of your doctors volunteer to go into plague zones? How many choose to work in radiation zones? In war zones? In disaster areas? Our medical teams do this. Not because they are crazy. but because they cannot stand by and watch others suffer. Even when it is dangerous. Even when it might kill them. They go anyway. She showed more images. Human engineers building water systems on alien worlds. Human teachers learning alien languages to teach refugee children. Human farmers sharing Earth crops with hungry colonies. "We do not want to conquer you," Margaret said, her voice breaking slightly. "We have seen what conquest costs. We have buried enough dead to fill oceans. We know what war does. We know what hate does. We spent 10,000 years fighting each other and we nearly destroyed ourselves. We learned our lesson the hard way." She wiped her eyes. She was crying now and she did not care who saw it. "We want to help you. We want to keep you safe. Because we know how fragile peace is. We know how hard it is to build something good. We know how quickly it can all fall apart. Every human remembers our history. We remember the wars, the famines, the plagues, the extinctions. We remember all of it." Her voice grew stronger. "And we swear to you, on the graves of every human who died to get us here, we will never let that happen to you. We will use everything we learned on our death world to protect what you have built here. This peace. This cooperation. This beautiful thing you call the Galactic Senate." She stood there, breathing hard, tears running down her face. "That is what a death world teaches you. Not how to kill. How to survive. How to endure. How to protect. And we are offering all of that to you." Quellen jumped up from his seat. For the first time since the debate began, his calm appearance was breaking. His translucent wings were shaking. His voice was loud and angry. "A few stories about heroism do not erase what you are capable of doing," he shouted. "You are still dangerous. You could still hurt us." Margaret turned to face him directly. She nodded slowly. "You are right. A few good actions do not erase our capacity for harm. Nothing can erase capacity. It will always be there." She walked along the Senate floor now, moving past different sections of delegates. Some watched her carefully. Others looked afraid. But they all listened. "Every species in this chamber has the capacity for harm," she said. "Every single one of you could hurt someone if you chose to. The Rixtheri could use their telepathy to cause pain. The collective could overwhelm others with their numbers. The merchants could create economic disasters. You all have power. You all could be dangerous." She stopped walking and looked around the entire chamber. "The question is not about capacity. The question is about choice. What do you choose to do with your power? That is what matters." Margaret pointed at the different species as she spoke. "You debate whether humans are too dangerous. But dangerous to whom? Look around you. Every species here has been at peace for generations. Your ships almost never fail because your engineering is perfect. Your colonies never starve because your supply systems work flawlessly. Your children grow up never knowing war or hunger or fear." Her voice softened. "This is beautiful. This is everything humans dream about. This is what we want to build for ourselves and for our children." She paused, and when she spoke again her voice was intense and serious. "But what happens when something goes wrong? What happens when your perfect ship does fail in deep space? What happens when your colony encounters a disease nobody has ever seen before? What happens when a solar storm threatens your station and all your perfect systems stop working?" Margaret's eyes swept across the chamber. "You will want a human there." She walked back to the center platform. "Because we have spent 200,000 years learning how to survive impossible situations. We have buried billions of our people who did not make it. Billions. We faced ice ages that should have killed us. Plagues that should have wiped us out. Famines. Droughts. Predators. We have died in every way you can imagine." Her voice grew stronger with each word. "But we are still here. Not because we are violent. Not because we are cruel. Because we are stubborn. Because we refuse to give up. Because when everything is falling apart and everyone else is panicking, humans get quiet and focused and we fix the problem." Images appeared on the screens. Humans in space suits repairing damaged ships. Humans building shelters in hostile environments. Humans creating medicine from plants. Humans farming in impossible conditions. "We will use every piece of knowledge we have," Margaret said. "Every tool. Every skill. Every desperate innovation. We will use all of it to save you. Not because you are human. Not because you are family by blood. But because you will become family by choice. And humans protect family." Her voice cracked with emotion now. Tears were running down her face again, but she kept talking. "You want to know what we want? We want to help you keep this. This peace. This prosperity. This Senate where 247 species can sit together and debate freely without fear of war. We know exactly how rare this is. We know exactly how fragile it is. We know what it takes to build civilization and we know how fast it can crumble. She turned to face Quellen directly. The tall alien was standing still now, listening. You said you fear us because we are dangerous. You are right to fear us. Fear is not a bad thing. Fear is wisdom. Fear kept your species alive. But I want you to ask yourself something important. Margaret took a step toward him. Do you fear us because we are actually dangerous to you? Or do you fear us because you have lived in peace for so long that you have forgotten what real danger looks like? The chamber was absolutely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. We have not forgotten, Margaret continued quietly. We remember danger. We live with it every day. Earth is still trying to kill us. Our own bodies are still too fragile. We still get sick. We still die. We still struggle. We remember what survival costs. She spread her arms wide, addressing the entire Senate now. And we are offering to remember for all of you. We will be the ones who understand danger, who can handle emergencies, who can survive the impossible. You can keep your peace. You can keep your perfect systems. You can keep your beautiful civilization. And when something goes wrong, you can call us. And we will come. And we will fix it. And we will keep you safe. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper, but in the silent chamber everyone could hear her. That is what Deathworlders do. We survive so that others do not have to. We carry the burden of danger so that you can live in peace. Margaret stood there, exhausted, her lungs burning from the thin air, her body aching from the low gravity. But she stood tall and proud. So fear us if you must, she said. But know this, that fear you feel? We will use it to protect you. Because the things that make us dangerous are the exact same things that make us the best allies you could ever have. For a long moment, nobody in the chamber moved. Margaret stood at the center platform, breathing heavily, her face wet with tears. 247 species stared at her in complete silence. Then Pip, the small orange amphibian, stood up. His 4 eyes were blinking rapidly. His small body was shaking, but he hopped forward on trembling legs. I need to tell you all something, Pip said in his tiny voice. 2 years ago, my research vessel crashed on a Class 6 world. Not as dangerous as Earth, but still hostile. We had 17 crew members. After the crash, only 4 of us could move. The Senate turned to listen to him. We sent out a distress signal, Pip continued. But we were far from any major routes. We thought we would die there. Then 3 humans appeared. They were on a nearby trading mission. They came to help us. Pip's voice grew stronger. Those humans stayed with us for 3 weeks. Their safety rules said they should leave after 3 days. The environment was too dangerous. The heat was too much. The air was wrong. But they stayed anyway. He looked around at the other delegates. They hunted food for us. They built shelters. They carried our injured. They gave us water when they barely had enough for themselves. All 17 of us survived because 3 humans decided we were worth saving. Pip turned to look at Margaret. One of them was named Thomas. Every night he told me stories about Earth. About oceans and mountains and cities. He told me about his daughter. He said she would love to meet me someday. When I was scared I would never go home, he made me promise to visit Earth when this was over. Other delegates began to stir. Counselor Beth stood up next. My people have human traders in our colonies now, Beth said. At first we were nervous. We watched them carefully. But they have become part of our communities. Human children play with our children. They teach each other games. They share food. They help each other with homework. Last month, a human child saved one of our younglings from drowning. The human did not even think about it. Just jumped into the water and pulled our child to safety. Senator Voss clicked forward, all 17 of his bodies moving thoughtfully. The collective has studied human culture extensively. We have analyzed their art, their music, their books, their films. We have read their poetry and listened to their songs. He paused, his compound eyes reflecting the chamber lights. No species with such capacity for beauty could be simple monsters. Their creativity reveals profound emotional depth. They create art about love and loss and hope and pain. They write songs that make them cry. They paint pictures of moments they want to remember forever. This is not the behavior of mindless predators. More delegates began standing. One by one they shared their stories. A reptilian delegate spoke about human doctors who volunteered at their hospital and taught them new medical techniques. A floating jellyfish creature described human engineers who helped design better life support systems for aquatic species. A small furry being told about a human teacher who learned their language just so she could read bedtime stories to their children. The stories continued. Each one showed a different side of humanity. Not the warriors from the history videos. Not the violent species from the death world. But the helpers, the teachers, the friends, the family. Finally, Quellen stood. The entire chamber fell silent again. Everyone turned to look at the tall Rixtheri ambassador who had argued so strongly against humanity. I have listened to everything today, Quellen said slowly. His voice was quiet now, not angry anymore. I have heard Ambassador Reeves speak. I have heard the stories from my fellow delegates. And I have been thinking very hard. He looked at Margaret. I still fear your kind, Ambassador. I will not lie about that. Your capacity for violence is real. Your world has made you into something dangerous. Something the galaxy has rarely seen. Margaret nodded but said nothing. She just waited. But perhaps, Quellen continued, and his voice became softer, you are right. Perhaps my fear tells you more about me than about you. Perhaps I have lived in peace for so long that I have forgotten what it takes to build that peace. What it costs to maintain it. He turned to address the entire Senate. I have changed my mind. I believe humanity should be admitted to the Galactic Concordat. Not despite their nature but because of it. Because when the comfortable peace we have built faces its next crisis, we will need someone who remembers how to survive. The chamber erupted into noise. Delegates began talking all at once. Some were excited. Some were worried. Some were angry. But the tone had shifted. There was hope in the air now. The Senate Speaker called for order. We will vote now, the Speaker announced. All in favor of admitting humanity to the Galactic Concordat with provisional status. Lights began appearing across the chamber as delegates cast their votes. Green lights for yes. Red lights for no. Yellow lights for abstaining. Margaret watched the lights multiply, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The counting seemed to take forever. Green lights appeared steadily. Red lights too, but fewer. Yellow lights scattered throughout. Finally, the speaker's voice rang out. 127 in favor. 89 opposed. 31 abstentions. The motion passes. Humanity is admitted to the Galactic Concordat. Margaret's legs almost gave out. She grabbed the podium to steady herself. With shaking hands, she touched her communicator. Earth, she whispered, her voice breaking. This is Ambassador Reeves. We are in. We are part of the galaxy now. 4 billion humans back on Earth erupted in celebration. The chamber began to empty. Some delegates came to congratulate Margaret. Others left quickly, still uncertain. But most approached with curiosity now instead of fear. Quellen was the last to approach. I meant what I said. I still fear you. Margaret smiled tiredly. Fear is not a bad thing. It keeps us careful. But hope is good too. Yes, Quellen agreed. Perhaps we can learn to balance both. Hours later, Margaret stood at an observation window, looking out at the stars. Her helmet was back on now. Her lungs needed to heal. But through the transparent dome, she could see countless stars stretching into infinity. Pip hopped up beside her, his small body barely reaching her knee. Is it true what they say about Earth? About blue oceans and beautiful sunsets? Every word is true, Margaret said. Someday when you are ready I will take you there. I will show you mountains and forests and oceans. I will introduce you to my family. We will watch the sunset together. I would like that very much, Pip said happily. Just one warning, Margaret added with a smile. What? You will probably get bitten by something. Maybe a mosquito. Maybe a bee. Earth is still a death world after all. Pip made a sound like bubbling water. He was laughing. But you have good medicine, yes? The best, Margaret promised. They stood together, human and alien, looking at the stars. For the first time since leaving Earth, Margaret felt truly hopeful. Humanity had a place among the stars now. Not as conquerors. Not as warriors. But as protectors. As helpers. As family. 5 years passed. A deep space station sent out an emergency signal. Life support was failing. 200 beings were going to die. The first response team arrived in hours. 12 species working together, led by a human named Thomas. As they cut through the damaged hull, Thomas's voice came over the radio. Listen up everyone. Nobody dies today. We have trained for this. We know what to do. Stay focused. Stay calm. We have got this. And against every odd, against all probability, they saved everyone. All 200 beings survived. Because a Deathworlder had spoken and the galaxy had listened and everything had changed.